Then we can start. So welcome all to this second webinar in the series telling you all about the exciting world of digital out of home. Please note that this one is recorded. Yes, there it is. And today we have a very special topic highlighted, which has gained a lot of traction lately, and that is programmatic digital out of home, or as this webinar is called, the power of programmatic digital out of home. So let's get started. Let's not keep you waited any longer. I do want to give a special thanks to our partners, VIOOH and Station Archer, who are also in this call and have been working with us on creating these beautiful webinars. So thanks for you all. If you could go to the next slide, Sue, please. Then let's highlight what has happened to us last year. It's good that on a global and local level, 2020 was the most difficult year in out-of-home media ever. Just to highlight this for you all, setting the scene. But as we all know, caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, which forced national, regional and local governments to impose unprecedented mobility restrictions in modern history, such as lockdowns, curfews, closure of stores, restaurants, cinemas, and so on. We're kind of getting out of this flow, which is good. We're seeing the numbers also rising and people returning outdoors, which we love all in the end, as we know. But the figures are not all that bad. They also on this slide show a very positive side. And that's the growth of digital within the out-of-home space. And I would like to highlight, of course, the biggest jump ever recorded, that was with programmatic advertising itself. Deloitte has just released the digital ad spend report for the Netherlands, and the report shows clearly that the programmatic shift from 2019 to 2020, the ad spend progressed from 7% in the mix to, probably everybody's sitting, to 39%, which is a huge leap and a leap forward. And that's why we also, of course, would like to get you up to speed in terms of information and what's possible within programmatic. We've got a couple of lovely showcases. We've got a couple of lovely demos, but not to leave you guys hanging there. I think it would be good if you go next to the next slide, Sue, please. Highlight why programmatic digital out of home is now a must. There's a lot going on this slide, but we'll be sharing this presentation with you guys later on. So it's always good to read through them. And this is a couple of things I would like to highlight is that, so whatever you're doing in terms of wherever you're responsible for within digital media or media in itself, I think everybody should not ask themselves, what could you do differently tomorrow, but today? And starting, of course, with programmatic digital out of home, as within out of home itself, it has been proven a perfect outlet to share messages since unaided recall rates are at 40%. With digital out of home even at 47%, clearly surpassing mobile at 35% and TV at 22%. Basically, so every impression is an opportunity. And as I just mentioned, people are returning to the outsides. People are actually enjoying it more and more with spring just around the corner. The sun is actually feeling warm again on our skins. And it's not to forget that we also have a couple of euros to spend and to burn also in our pockets. The savings accounts have never been as big in the Netherlands as during this pandemic. So there's a very healthy spend, revenge spending, as it's called, on its way in 2021. And as highlighted in the last webinar, digital out of home has always been a powerful creative experience. Everyone who has missed the last one, I would like to invite them to look at that one again, because creativity in itself has always been an opportunity, and we also share why it's that important. And now, without further ado, it's up to you, Ollie. Good luck.
Cheers, Mark. Hi guys, so I'm Oliver Poulter. I'm the Client Services Manager here at VIOOH. And today I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about the benefits of trading out of home programmatically. So if we just move to the next slide. So quickly to introduce who we are as VIOOH and a little bit more about the ecosystem in general. It's a pretty kind of simple setup in this regard. So as VIOOH, we are the exchange and the SSP, so we sit right in the middle there. We've got that integration with JCDecaux on a global level. So we, the media owner sits on the left-hand side there. Also got the integration with Sage and Archer as a DSP on the right-hand side. And obviously, in a very similar sense to anything else programmatic, we send bid requests as the SSP and the exchange to the DSP, and the DSP sends those bid responses back to serve those ads across those frames across the JCDecaux portfolio. And then obviously you've got the agency, the advertiser on the right-hand side as the buyer. So quickly to outline some of the, I guess, key differences between running a direct campaign versus running programmatically. There's quite a few things here, but just to, I guess, save on time and focus, kind of call out the main points. In terms of the commercial partners on the direct side of things, you obviously have the agency or the advertiser, and these deals will be brokered, directly with the media owner themselves. Whereas on the programmatic side of things, this all centers around the DSP being the kind of main technology platform that automates the planning and the buying of that inventory. Obviously on the inventory side of things, direct sales, you have paper and digital, whereas programmatic, it's just digital. And in terms of the method of purchase, this is done in advance on the direct side of things, whereas programmatic, this is done in a more real-time fashion. Just talking about a little bit about flexibility, and we'll talk a little bit more about this in the further slides, and also a little bit more about in the showcases. But on the direct side of things, the inventory is reserved, and on the programmatic side of things, it can also be reserved, and we'll talk about that when we talk about the trading models. But it can also be non-reserved, and that's where that flexibility and that versatility comes in. Just talking about performance, so a big part of programmatic is being able to optimize a campaign mid-campaign in the same way as you would with display or video. On the direct side of things, obviously with the paper aspect of that, that performance evaluation is done after the campaign once the results are in. So yeah, talking a little bit more about the benefits of programmatic out of home specifically. We've talked a little bit about this already, and I think this first point here is really a foundational benefit of programmatic in general, whether it's display, video, mobile, or out of home. They all share the same benefits, and that is flexibility. So being able to manage where, when, and how the campaign is run, being able to pass on impressions or win impressions based on the targeting parameters of the campaign. I think it definitely adds an added level of flexibility to a buy, which can be really value adding for any advertiser that's looking to take advantage of that feature. When we talk about data, I don't think data is anything necessarily new. This is still used a lot in terms of planning and also evaluating the performance of a campaign. But I think where we distinguish using data on a direct campaign versus on a programmatic campaign is being able to actually use that data mid-campaign to optimize towards a specific objective. So whether that's targeting specific audiences that index in one location at the start of a campaign, and then optimizing that campaign based on where those audiences are moving, or whether that's just starting to leverage certain types of data to target specific times of the day, specific days of the week, and changing that mid-campaign to reflect the data that you're starting to see. Whichever type of data that is, whether it's first party or third party data. Last point I'll just cover here is around unified messaging and omni-channel synergy. I think there's a few things here. I think there's a convenience aspect of running your out of home campaign within the same DSP as your other marketing other media channels. It's very convenient for one campaign manager to be able to oversee multiple media channels, report on that media activity, and also use specific insights, maybe from an out-of-home campaign, leverage those insights and use those to influence your other channels or vice versa. And then there's also a specific, I guess, synergy, if you'd like to use that word, between mobile and out of home. So being actually able to integrate your out of home activity with your mobile activity. And there's a few points to cover here, I think. So one is from a, a planning perspective. If you have, mobile data that you can use to plan with, that's definitely something that's possible. There's a retargeting perspective here, which is being able to, pass back device IDs that have been exposed when people have been passing out of home ads, and then retargeting with a mobile ad later down the line. And then there's also, I think, a last point, which is around performance. So being able to use mobile data to track footfall, track sales uplift, that sort of thing. If we just move to the next slide here. So we'll talk through a few showcases that really exemplify the use of specific data triggers. But just to break down, the main data triggers that can be used, I think there's two parts here. There's first party data triggers. So that's using either your own first party data or the media owner's first party data to trigger the advertising based on sales data, based on location data, based on audience data. These things are all possible. But you also have third-party data triggers, and these can be anything from really simple contextual triggers, such as time of day, day of the week, again, specific locations, but you also have those, data-heavy triggers, such as, being able to use API feeds to trigger based on, specific temperatures, specific weather conditions, specific pollution levels, and we'll showcase some of those examples in a bit. So just to break down how we work, what our solution looks like, and the trading models within that. So it's all done within a private marketplace deal currently, and you have two trading models within that. So you have the guaranteed trading model, and I think the simplest way to break this down is it very closely resonates with a direct way of buying, just through a DSP and through programmatic pipes. So the inventory is reserved, the price will be fixed, and therefore the buyer is obliged to win as close to 100% of those impressions as possible. So I think this is, this is beneficial in the sense that if you're looking, if you're an advertiser or an agency and you're looking and you have a really good idea of exactly where you want to reserve inventory and exactly where you want to, engage with audiences, it might be a good way to reserve that inventory, make sure that no other, buyers have a look in on that inventory, and just capitalize on your objectives there. On the other side of things, you have the non-guaranteed, and this is where that flexibility, that versatility and the ability to leverage different types of data to optimize your campaign really come into play. So this can be either done on a fixed or floor price model. And the crucial point here is that the impressions won't be reserved. So whereas if you're running on a fixed price, the price will be reserved, the price will be fixed, sorry, the inventory won't actually be reserved. So this allows you to really, build your buying strategy to hit whatever objectives you want to hit, and add that level of flexibility and be able to leverage different types of data to target different outcomes. So yeah, just talking briefly about measuring success here, and there's 4 pillars that we're talking about here. And I think when we're talking about success, it's really important to caveat that the performance is always going to be very much tied to location with out of home. There's definitely people that are working on specific solutions of tying online internet advertising and attributing those results to out of home campaigns, but I'm kind of yet to see that. So currently it's very much tied to location. So when we talk about sales, we're specifically talking about storefront sales. When we talk about traffic, we're talking about footfall traffic, and we talk about campaign relevancy. So that's talking about those triggers that we can leverage to make the campaign more relevant, minimize that media wastage, and also maximize the relevancy. So whether that's targeting specific audiences or again targeting specific parameters such as weather and other things that we'll talk about in the case studies. The last point to cover off here is just around brand uplift. So being able to increase purchase consideration, brand awareness, being able to actually attribute that to the campaign. And there's a number of different solutions. This can either be done via the supply side. This can also be done via the DSP. It's all possible. So just moving on. So now we're going to talk about a few case studies. The first one here, I think really well kind of exemplifies a lot of those features and themes that we were just talking about in the way of flexibility, versatility, using specific data triggers to optimize towards a specific objective. And this is for the MoCo Museum. So they were looking essentially to optimize visitation rate to their museum, but they wanted to make sure that they were only activating the campaign when visitor rates to the museum weren't optimal. So the way they did this in terms of the setup was they partnered with Sage and Archer, and they used a custom trigger API to monitor that live visitor data and understand what the visitation rate looked like at the museum at any one time. And then they started to optimize the campaign to boost those visitor numbers, and also crucially only activate the campaign when visitor numbers were low to minimize any kind of media wastage and make sure they were only activating in times when they needed to activate. So just looking at the results, and I think when we look at the results here, we firstly got to look at it with a lens that 2020 was obviously a time when COVID was hitting the Netherlands hard. And therefore there were COVID restrictions in place, which meant that they weren't allowed to have as many visitors in the actual museum as 2019. I think the core thing to focus on here was that actually during off-peak times, the visitor numbers were boosted, because this is when the campaign actually came to life and started to activate across those screens and provide those offers that were kind of driving people to the museum. And as you can see there, just in terms of the outcomes, they reduced their media spend by 59% while still producing the same results as the previous year. So a really successful campaign, some great outcomes, and also, as you can see, starting to really utilize some of those core benefits of programmatic that I was just talking about in the previous slides. So with that, I'll hand back over to Mark to walk through some other case studies.
Thanks, Ollie. I think thanks for highlighting one of the key elements of this out of home and how you can actually make sure that with the right contextual targeting, you can make a difference for a client. We've also made a difference for the Bloemenbureau. I can't get any more Dutch than this, but they did a very cool, and it's a first pan-European campaign, programmatically combining also mobile advertising. They had a clear target on reaching the urban audiences and at the same time creating brand awareness. So they needed actually not only to use the go big or go home mentality of out of home, which works very well, but they needed to actually go bigger or go home. And that's where they smartly used the capabilities within Sage and Archer. I think one of the key elements to highlight here is that the smart use of mobile data made it possible to enable these audiences on a later stage and retargeting them via both digital out of home and mobile ads. We work closely with our organizations in Germany and UK. In Germany, it's called Waldeco, but in the end, it's all premium displays that were executed. And I think I would like to highlight also the last key benefit of this campaign is that we saved a lot of time for the client in the end by making use of Sage and Archer. There was one standardized reporting cross-country, cross-media, which ordinarily would be a very time-consuming and operationally difficult process. So everybody's happy. The client is actually coming back and having a larger appetite than before. So we're happy that MetaKind organized this together with Sage and Archer and a couple of our other entities. So yeah, this is, I think, a very good showcase that it's not only locally relevant, but you can easily, with just one press the button, you can also activate other countries. I know there's a lot of work been done on the back end, but yeah, for anybody who has an appetite to go international, this is a very good showcase. And if you've got any further questions, please let us know. Thanks.
Right, this is a case I can talk about, right, Albertijn? So here again, a fantastic case where Albert Heijn used the various things that digital out of home and programmatic out of home have to offer. Here we work together with Dentsu and data provider Resono, where Resono provides location data from stores from Albert Heijn. So what Albert Heijn actually wanted to do with this campaign is to reach out to customers that don't go to the Albert Heijn as frequent as a certain group that goes every week or every day, because it's just the most close by supermarket. So Dentsu designed a strategy where with the data from Resono, they could really see and measure what areas of town would be most relevant for the group that wasn't coming to the Albert Heijn on a super frequent basis. So based on this location data, this mobile location data, they designed a very nice audience planning and created this custom audience based on time and location, where they could see, okay, what are the times and what are the locations, the spots we should be present at to really reach out to this specific group. And moreover, because of this location data set, Resono was also capable of measuring whether it actually worked. So the campaign was targeted on a very specific group, the people not showing up to the Albert Heijn as often and going to the competitors. And based on this very specific data set, we targeted that group and we could measure, did it actually work? And the great news is that obviously, as it is with all showcases, it worked obviously. With a 30% uptick in footfall, we could actually measure which parts of town we had success and which we did not. As you could also see per part of town, we had different impact numbers, and not everywhere it worked fantastically. But based on the data, first off, we could actually see whether this strategy worked. We could be very specific in our audience strategy to begin with. And this is the beauty that all digital marketers love, is that we could optimize during the campaign. We could really figure out, okay, where should we put more emphasis and where should we back down maybe because with our budget where we can't get results. So a very nice campaign using various aspects of data with Resono and programmatic flexibility capabilities. Furthermore, we also used dynamic HTML5, which we talked about in the last webinar that Mark referred to be relevant in where the Albert Heijn actually was in the neighborhood. You might think, okay, sure, if I'm living in Zuid, I would probably know that at the Museumplein there's an Albert Heijn. But we've learned last time that making it relevant, making it special for you, creating that extra relevancy in the messaging helps tremendously in creating more impact. So the technology on the creative side was also used here. All right, next case. Click. Someone clicking still. There we go. A case for Ascent. So Ascent had a very interesting case where they also used data, but there they used their own data to begin with. So they used their data to figure out what areas they could find their specific high value customers. So they defined with their own data team what areas of Holland they wanted to target to really specifically reach out to certain audience groups. And then what happened is they actually ran a campaign in Q4, and then 15 December, you might remember this day, we got this strict lockdown that we had to deal with all the way up to next week. For them, the question was, okay, so we know exactly which areas of the country we want to create reach. We know which audience to reach out to, but is out of home still a relevant channel for us? As with this lockdown, we've seen numbers go down tremendously in terms of where people are, right? And especially with strict lockdowns and retail being closed. So where can I still find this audience? So what they then did with us is to figure out, okay, what areas can we still, based on mobile data, find certain audiences? What spots, what times are still relevant? So again, combining location data from mobile with also in time to figure out, okay, what are the locations where we can actually still reach out to our customer base or actually our potential most valuable areas of the Netherlands. And what they then also did is to figure out, okay, so what areas can we still just do digital out of home, and what areas can we or should we combine with other channels as well? So where should we actually generate more context, not merely with our digital out of home outreach, but also with other channels like mobile or social or whatever. So for them, in the end, Ascent decided to create a campaign where they would fill up the amount of context they would reach with out of home, combine that with mobile, and were very successful in the end and measured this, not with location data or sales data, but they connected this to the panel of Memo2, and did research on what the impact numbers would be on their brand KPIs based on this specific campaign, based on this specific outreach they did. And they got tremendous results, as they got a plus 14% in top of mind brand awareness and a plus 14% in spontaneous brand awareness. So very nicely combined mobile and digital out of home to still get to the right amount of frequency, the right amount of contact, and get to an effective campaign. And actually compared it to their generic like normal poster campaign, and even then it had a plus 14% uptick. So this specific approach really worked to create more value. So super nice case. We also got a nice reward. Last Friday, me or Margot pitched at the DIA Awards jury. So hopefully we'll get some positive results. They did ask some difficult questions about sales uptick, which I think was dumb, but okay. Let's see what we'll reach. All right. So when you talk about all these cases, you might think this stuff is super hard, right? Programmatic people are very good in using abbreviations, difficult terms, trying to make it more difficult than it might be. And to be honest, in the past, we also did this. We love our abbreviations. We love our jargon. But what we're trying to do with Sage and Archer, and this is our vision, is to make it as easy as possible in the platform. Basically, let the technology do the hard lifting, do the heavy lifting, and then make sure to make features that are accessible for everyone, to create these fantastic case studies on top of. And so we're working every day to make the stuff easier and make the platform easier and create it as simple as we can. So I would just wanted to run through the setup you can have and the way we thought about it, and just to show you how easy it is, and then you can be the judge whether it is actually still easy. And we call this Let's Go Live in 5, which has multiple layers to it. As we would say, it's only 5 steps. It's only 5 minutes as well. And whenever there's a new lockdown, it will take you 5 seconds to be offline again. So the 5 steps would be, okay, so first off, start with location, right? Start with a point of sale or a point of interest you think is relevant. So location-based is in the end the tool, the way we set it up. We always start as a starting point with where do you want to be present? The question we need to answer is where. But the second step is, okay, so but at what time? So when am I going to be relevant at those locations? So I think for one of the big shifts we've seen from having a standard poster, which is there for a week, versus digital out of home and connecting that to programmatic, is that we move from this, I'm always there for the whole week at a certain location. We can also start asking the question, when is the right time to be relevant at what location? And we designed the technology in a way that you can easily set it up yourself as well as how extensive you wanted to organize that. Then the third one is setting up your triggers. We saw this fantastic case with Moco, where there's a custom trigger based on sales data on people going to the museum, yes or no, triggering campaigns. We have tons of triggers, and that all sounds super difficult as well. But again, we tried to make that as accessible for everyone as possible. So I'll show you in a bit. Then we have audience targeting. Basically, what audience targeting means is that we use data to determine, like with the Albert Heijn case and with the Ascent case, is to understand what are the locations, what are the times we should be present, but then create such an extensive schedule with on every single screen determine at what time we want to be present as we see our audience there, that you, with one click on the button in our platform, it will do the work for you. You don't have to create a manual schedule and location. with the audience data, you can just click, select a certain audience, and it will for you overwrite all the settings in terms of times and location. And then when we have actually done the selection of which screens and times, or at what conditions should we go live, then the last step is to upload your creatives. And we had a fantastic session last time about HTML5 and being relevant, using all the capabilities Programmatic has to offer. But again, also here, when you then put it into practice, it can be super easy using the upload button in the platform and the approval process where Mark has to actually say, okay, this creative is okay to go live on the JCDecaux screens. All right, let's look at the 5 steps. So step 1 is location, right? So location is our starting point. So in the platform, we actually put in various standardized lists already of points of interest that we have seen from our experience that people like. So on the left hand, for instance, shops Albert Heijn, and the top you can see in the screen, we already put in all the Albert Heijn in there. We put in like all the supermarkets, all the shops, all the sport locations, all the schools, all the universities, you name it. But we often also get questions on, okay, that's super nice, but I have my own list. Or I don't want to have the Albert Heijns, I want all the ACOs. I don't know, you can think of any case that would be relevant for you. So we have a bunch of tools, and this is the scoop, that go live pretty soon, are live in beta right now, that allow you to use the platform also to just look up certain stores and then create a list from them. So we have the possibility for you to use standardized lists that are already in there, so that's super easy. We have the ability to upload CSV files with net long data. We also have the ability to upload CSV files with address information. And now the new feature we have live in beta right now is that you can just use the platform also to look up certain stores and create a list from them. So for instance, if the ACO, which is a fantastic example, ACO stores are not yet in the platform and you do not have a CSV list, you can just use our platform, look up ACO, select the Netherlands or a certain location, and it will pop up with all the relevant ACOs in that area. You can see those on the map and just click on the button, add it to the POI list, and it will be relevant and done for you in the platform. The second part where we also got some questions on was, okay, so when we have locations, I want to know how is digital out of home or is programmatic out of home the right channel for me given the locations I have, right? In the Ascent case, there was a huge list of areas they wanted to be present in. And basically what they asked us is like, okay, so I have 2 questions. Are there still people in those locations? And the second question, are there any screens anyhow in those locations, right? As for certain areas, digital out of home isn't everywhere. It's only like 10,000 screens of the 80,000 screens that are available. So in the end, in some areas, especially when it's not in big towns, maybe digital out of home as a standalone product is not, or a standalone channel will not actually help you reach your goals in terms of running your campaign. So we often got the question, okay, can you help us decide on what locations we should just run out of home and what locations we should combine it with mobile and in what locations we should just do something else? Maybe an offline poster, or maybe, I don't know, whatever, send in an activation team, I don't know. So what we also created, and this is also a nice little new feature we designed, is that you can select one of the location groups or the POI list you just made, or that you already have, select the radius, and then you can exactly see on the map how many screens are in the vicinity of that specific POI. And it will also pop up as a table that you can export that whole list and look up yourself per location, how many screens, which screens is relevant, etc. So again, to make this whole planning process easier, we obviously already have the planning tool in there to calculate what price, what volumes, etc. But also to give you a sense for, okay, so on the map, can I see based on my POIs where I should run campaigns with digital out of home, or at what locations it might not make too much sense. So super nice features will go live very soon for all of you. For some of you, it's already live, and it will really offer some nice opportunities. Okay, so when we have location, when we have answered the question where, we also need to answer the question when. And often this sounds a bit yeah, it sounds a bit obvious, right? Okay, so when, that could be a time frame or maybe a condition, but it's super important. I always say, like, location is king in our platform, but time is definitely its queen, as those two make programmatic digital out of home super relevant. When, at what screen should I be present? Yes or no? So what you could do manually, super easy, is to just add as many schedules as you want. You can do it per day. You can add multiple schedules per day. You can be as extensive and fanatic about this as you want. So there are some typical easy examples that if you run a campaign for store visitors, it might make sense to have a campaign that is only running when your store is actually open, right? If you have a campaign that's focused on certain locations combined with time because you think your audience is there, for instance, we run a campaign for students, and maybe we'll select universities, and maybe only the times that people are actually in the university are the relevant times, right? So you can already, when you manually start thinking about when and where, you can be as specific as you want yourself automatically with this system. So here you can just add lists of times as extensive as you want. Furthermore, in this screen, we only talked about the trading models. Here you can see like a maximum CPM. So again, what we try to do is let the technology do the heavy lifting. So based on, we designed an algorithm that will actually optimize for the demand side. Like we're a DSP, which stands for demand side platform, which means we're not working for Mark's team, we're working for the agencies and the buyers. In the end, obviously, we want Mark to be happy. We want him to be smiling with the campaigns we run, but our algorithm is designed to get the most out of your budget based on the setting you put in. So if you put in like specific locations and a whole schedule and a certain CPM, what the algorithm will do for you is, independent of whatever trading model is actually being run in the back end, it will find the right price and the right delivery. So it will pace your campaign across all the different settings and that are in the system, so all the different screens and all the different times, and it will get to the result in the specified time with the right pricing. So it will, whether it's a first, we love to talk about first and second price auction models and stuff like that. Our platform doesn't care. It's going to find the right price and the right delivery in the time frame given the settings we put in. So again, let the technology do the heavy lifting. We try to make this as easy as possible. All right. So when we talk about when and where, basically what we've done is that we manually created moments where we want to be relevant. As we saw in the cases for Ascent and also in Albert Heijn, sometimes you can be more specific, but it would be too much work for you to do this manually, right? So what we do there is that we offer the possibility to do audience targeting. On the left, you see a nice little map of the Netherlands, and we try to visualize this as good as we could, is where you actually can see, okay, what specific places light up? Do we see a higher index of people being present given the audience we selected? Combining time and location, again, it's that easy, basically. There's not too much magic in there, but we use mobile data to figure out what are those times and locations where we can actually find a certain target audience in a higher index. So we offer the possibility to select data from our partners. So we were partnered with AdSquare. You can see that in the platform. We are partnered with audience providers from the publishers or the media owners themselves. So there's audiences in there also from JCDecaux. We have some bespoke audiences from S+A as well, where we have seen so much data, we can honestly say, okay, these are good groups that you could target, again, using this feature. But Albert Heijn case, they put in their own schedule, right? With Rezono, they measured, okay, so what are for us the right places and times where we can find our bespoke audience? So again, what the platform does for you is that it just selects on all the screens in the Netherlands. It will decide what time should I be present at that screen and what time shouldn't I be present. And that can differ per minute per screen, right? So you can be extremely specific, have a super extensive schedule, but only with one click in the platform, it will select that for you. And you can see in the platform which screens are actually selected and in the reporting also where it actually will run. So you can do it yourself. You can create or pick one of the providers we have to offer. It works super easy. All right. Triggers. So we saw this fantastic case I love that case from MoCo Museum, as in it's first-party data being used to trigger in real time whether a campaign should run, yes or no. And we have tons of triggers in the platform. But we want to keep the platform as easy as possible. So default, we have put live for everyone the weather API, as most of the triggers or most of the conditions being used for campaigns and programmatic thus far. And hopefully we'll see some very nice cases that will also change this a little bit. But for now, what we see is that weather API is the most used feature we see on triggers. So that's default live for everyone. Very easily, just select the temperature and select a certain weather condition, and then it will go live. What it does actually, to be more specific, it looks at the most close by weather station to figure out what the conditions should be for what the weather conditions at that location are. Obviously, that can still mean, like I often, when I use BioRadar, I'm still in the rain. Well, it's actually saying that it shouldn't rain, so it can be wrong. But in the basis, we use those APIs to be very specific. We also have some custom APIs, which you've seen with MoCo Museum. We help our clients to set that up, and we love to play around with basically with how much variation we can put in that in these triggers. So again, here you can think about time and location being the two variables you can actually trigger. So it's not just on off of a campaign. You can also say where and when. And this is something we've built for the Amber Alert, now really relevant as the police is trying to kill it. So it's a shame of this fantastic innovation. But what we did for them is that the police can actually, when they put in an Amber Alert, the platform will be triggered in real time based on where this Amber Alert should run and at what time, right? So again, time and location is being used to be specific in the conditions. And the API we've built is suitable for any type of trigger to connect to time and location. So the one we default put in is temperature and weather condition. We have an API case with airports, with traffic, with the public transport as well. So you name it. When there's an open data source for it, we can trigger based on location, time, or we can be as customized as possible. But again, it's super easy to use these types of triggers, and we would love you to reach out to us when you think of a nice trigger where we could actually dynamically use the power of programmatic to trigger in real time. So when we have this selection of time and location, when we know which screens, what time, what conditions, the last part is the creative part. And again, we try to make this as easy as possible. There's a creative approval process where you upload your creatives. You can upload a video, an image, or an HTML5 ad, either tag-based or in a zip file. And then it will show you which publishers have actually approved it and who have not yet. And when they disapprove, you get an email why. So and then this is the part that might take longer than 5 minutes, as the media owner, Mark, has to approve these creatives. And so it depends on Mark whether it will go live in 5 seconds, 5 minutes, or 10 minutes. But he's pretty fast, but others maybe are not, I don't know. But in the end, the publisher decides whether the ads are fit the context of the screens, whether it's okay for those types of creatives to run their ads. You know, in the end, we're running ads in a public space. So there's a little bit more scrutiny involved than just run a creative on a mobile, for instance. So super easy. Again, you upload the creatives and then you're up and running. So live in five steps: location, time, select your audience, get your trigger done, upload it, and you're good to go. Mark.
Thanks, JCDecaux. I think this helps everyone in this session a lot. Loving that you guys keep on innovating. And I don't think it's well known, but I think Sage and Archer are one of the leading DSPs in the world when it comes to this out of home. So enough for Diederik and his team as in terms of how great they are. But I think we should be very pleased with the innovative power we have in the Netherlands, and we should use it. That's a shout out to everyone in this webinar. And let's talk of all the the good things and how easy it can be in the end. It should also be, of course, available, and looking at inventory itself. I think what is key to highlight, as you already have seen on the maps that Diederik showed, how much impressions or impacts are available. This is something that every country does by itself. There are joint industry committees based in every country. Those are extensive research that are done, and basically what happens is that we do not have a pixel that tracks an audience. So we have these joint industry committees backed by the publishers, making sure that there is a valid reason or a valid impression being served. So we know what is happening around our screens, and it's being validated every hour, actually. So VIOOH is already a party that's been mentioned. That's one of our data partners. So we can actually make sure that we know on an hourly basis, and we keep on making that better, and even real time. But on an hourly level now, we know what impact you can make around our screens. This is actually a lovely example, roadside of one of our Avenue screens in Rotterdam. But in essence, if you're looking for impressions, there's no shortage at the moment. That's something that might happen in the near future. Be aware that digital out of home itself has something to do with availability. We do not have an infinite number of impressions. 400 million sounds a lot. And we're not accounting all parties involved. We as JCDecaux, of those 400 weekly million impressions, we serve around 140, so 140, if you would like to write it down. And we keep on expanding. We believe in the power of digital, and we have some big ambitions still for the near future. We now have around 466 screens available in the biggest cities of the Netherlands, and we keep on expanding, and our ultimate goal is to have 1,000. So yeah, welcome to the biggest out-of-home media player and our ambitions. So and whatever we do not compromise in terms of I think the next slide will be good, Sue. I think we do not compromise in terms of the high impact locations we are looking after. This is a very nice example, thanks to Diederik for putting this in, of the locations of JCDecaux. Of course, there are other very interesting publishers around. As everyone knows, there are shopping areas, specific malls, that you can actually go after the audience or whatever KPI you're after. There are busy squares. Of course, we are located there. We've got ocean there, and there are tourist hotspots around the beach. Clear Channel is big. But yeah, we can name a couple of publishers. If you're looking for natural coverage, that's also possible. So whatever audience you're looking for geographically, in terms of what we are aiming at, and that's something that every publisher at the moment does, is we have high impact. We're going after the high impact locations. There's of course a huge investment involved with our digital screens. That's not only for JCDecaux, but that also accounts for other publishers. So right now you will not see us in lesser or less busy streets or areas. So we focus now on creating high impact with premium displays. I think the next slide shows that very well. Our two prides in terms of the two networks. On the left is the Avenue, 6.5 square meters of premium display, and on the right hand side we have got 2 square meters of premium display. That's where JCDecaux actually started off at 2 square meters. That's the standard we set for the dish or for the out-of-home industry itself. That has not changed for digital, and as you can see, this is as good as it gets on the streets in the Netherlands, but also worldwide. We're located in over 80 countries, And this is what we are looking for. This is premium. This is I think this might even be better than the television screen you have on your in your living room. But in the end, all the cool stuff that Station Archer does, the lovely connection we have with VIOOH, that comes together, this entire ecosystem on a very lovely screen that is of high quality and of course of high impact, as you can see here. This is just a normal day in Amsterdam, even during lockdown. So these are not pictures from 2 years ago. This has been shot recently. Yeah, if you're looking after a specific audience, or even if you're looking after building your brand, this is the way to go. And I think we can all be proud of that. And without further ado, I think it's good to hand it over to Ollie.
Brilliant, thanks, Mark. So yeah, I think we've got about 7 minutes left. I can't currently see any questions in the Q&A section, but I'll give it a few seconds. If anyone wants to put anything forward, we'd be more than happy to answer any questions on any of the content that's been presented.
Nope. All right.
It's such a clear story.
Good to mention that we'll send the recording of this session to everyone. So if you missed a part, we'll send it to you tomorrow, actually. And also, what we did is to make an overview of all the things possible right now, as we see this press conference of yesterday as like a new nice step into the new normal. And maybe as like a new step into 2021. Let's start the year right now. And we'll send over all the things that are actually possible right now in the Dutch ecosystem. So you have a feel for an overview of, okay, so maybe I want to start with out of home again. What are the possibilities? So we'll send that round. And then if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Mark, Ollie, or me, right?
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
All right, enjoy your day and make the most of it.
Bye.
Next webinar. Bye.